This is Late Night Health. This is the radio show that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. Hi, I'm Mark Alyn. Along with the insane Daryl Wayne, we're going to spend 2 hours talking about a wide variety of health topics that touch each and every one of us. During hour 2, I think, we're going to be talking with Bob Arnott, former NBC medical reporter. We're going to talk about the benefits of coffee, and we're going to talk about pain. During this hour, I'm really excited. It's kind of like a spiritual hour for me. We're going to be spending some time with somebody I just had lunch with a few weeks ago, Dannion Brinkley. He's a New York Times bestselling author, specifically Saved by the Light, At Peace in the Light, and Secrets of the Light. We're not going to talk about his books today. We will in about a month during the holiday time. We're going to talk about Dannion's interest and work with veterans and the fact that he has created something called the Twilight Brigade and has trained over 6,000 volunteers nationwide to help veterans, pass. So that they're not alone. Dannion, welcome to Late Night Health.
Mark, thank you very much for having me.
You're a former Marine yourself.
Hoorah!
How did you come up with the idea of helping veterans?
When my mom was passing, she had lupus and radon. And as she was taking her last breath, I'd become a hospice volunteer because at the very end of the first near-death experience, being struck by lightning, you have this thing, Mark, called the panoramic life review. Everybody goes through it. You see your life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama. You watch it from a second-person point of view as if you were your own best friend. And then you literally become every person that you've ever encountered, and you feel the direct results of your interaction between you and everyone you had ever encountered. And then at the end of it, there is this moment, and this is a Dannionism, but it's like this perspective comes over you. If God could not come today and God sent you, in the life you just reviewed, what difference did you and God make? Well, my father was a World War II disabled veteran, and someone had to take him to the hospital. So I would take my dad to the VA hospital, and I discovered a wing that had AIDS patients in it. And it was the saddest, Mark, most heartbreaking place you've ever been. And people wore plastic suits and wouldn't go near. This is like in the early 80s, so
we didn't know that much about it at that time.
Yeah, if you could get AIDS if you walked across the same street. And
right.
I just couldn't bring myself to dress in all those outfits, and so while my dad was taking care of his stuff, I discovered this wing, and I figured that these were the people that I should help. I called family members, I listened to them, I talked, I smuggled in brownies, whatever would lighten up their day, and so it just became a point where I saw the need for this particular branch of this particular illness in many branches of the military. And so when I would take my dad, this was what I would do because he could handle himself in the VA. And it just kept growing, and when we came west, I was in the Washington VA for 10 years. And now I've been in the West Los Angeles VA in the same offices for 20 years. So I've been a hospice volunteer in the VA for 32 years.
Oh, my. How many vets have you helped in that time, personally?
2011, going from this world to the next, 346 taking their last breath.
So several weeks ago, Danny and I are having lunch with a number of very enlightened, very brilliant people. I was so honored to be in that restaurant with all of you.
Myself, I felt the same way, Mark.
I mean, I just couldn't believe who I was speaking with. And Danny and I sat next to each other. I had Swami, who's been on the show, was next to me. Across the way was Robert. We had a lot of interesting people. And we had an appointment. We were going to look at something all together. And at the last minute, you had to take off. You got a call that one of your patients was passing.
Exactly. And what I do is I don't ever ask my people to do what I don't do. And so we have call. So on those weekends, I'm the one who with the phone. And, if that call comes in, I'm on my way there. And we had 3 that weekend. So I was waiting to see the property, and when the phone rings, this is what I do. So I went straight back to the hospital.
Wow.
It's just, I have no great fear of this thing they call death because I know it doesn't exist. It's some kind of ludicrous point of view that somewhere we developed it because the body that we inhabit, we've become to identify it as ourselves as opposed to the true spiritual identity that we all have. And when you've had 40 years, 30 years in the VA, then you hear the last conversations. I've heard the last conversation of not hundreds but thousands of people. So you really know that there is a deep spiritual side and connective to those people. And I believe without that fear that comes with that, and knowing what I went through, being paralyzed and taking 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself after being struck by lightning, I can relate.
Not once, but twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I didn't catch it the first time, so I always say, well, I think we need to go kill Dannion again.
What did you do prior to that, before catching the light?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps, and then I worked contract for various agencies, depending on what it was. Most of mine was reconnaissance or layout, but there was plenty of business. There was plenty of things for adrenaline junkies with military background. Now they call them contractors. But before that, they didn't really have a name except like plausible deniability or expendable asset. These were the kind of names. But once that part gets in your blood, and the thrill of pulling it off, and really honestly think you're doing something great for the country, until you realize better. And I followed that path out of the Marine Corps. And I worked in that area, and it became, it became what I did. I was really smart at gathering intel, and I could move reasonably easily among countries, and most people would think I was a German.
And at the same time, you've developed this project that's amazing, the Twilight Brigade. And that's so, I guess, veterans without family or who may be estranged from family can die with somebody.
That's mostly what it is, Mark. People don't realize veterans develop very strange psychological profiles. We are not designed to fight wars. Anyone who does what I do realize that 60% of those who go into combat never come back. Whether they're here or not, never come back. And so I started realizing the kind of heartbreak, especially among aides, and the kind of despair. And I just decided that this would be something that I could do. I don't have any fear of death. I think it's just, like I said earlier, a very stupid thought pattern. And I don't have any fear, and there is so much fear and so much guilt and so much what people define as sin, because what happens in war, as we all know, what happens in war is a a lot of times your reactions are coming from anger because you just lost one of your best buddies or the guy in the ditch next to you, and you do things out of anger as opposed to out of direct orders. And when you come to facing those final moments, that is the crisis that most veterans face. And being able to help them find closure and developing an art form. I developed this program with the help of some really smart people. And it's a way to create open-ended conversations, to find places that they can find joy and closure. You know, what's your favorite song and why? And you hear the first kiss, first dance, you know, the first romance. You hear something that they heard that brought them safety. And then you begin to build conversations off of that. What I learned, Mark, is so few people ever have a conversation about this subject matter until literally it is upon them. And I can promise you that a person lying in a bed in excruciating pain, like from Agent Orange, they don't give a damn what the weather is. They care about trying to understand what's next and how to find a redemption for what they believe to be sin or crisis in their lives.
And that is where, of course, Dannion Brinkley comes in. The co-founder of the Twilight Brigade. Its offices are located in the greater Los Angeles area. And we'll find out more about the Twilight Brigade and a little bit more about Dannion as well. Like, is he really from the South? We'll talk about that as Late Night Health continues. Join us at latenighthealth.com. You'll see a picture of Dannion there. You'll also see a picture of the cover of his book. More coming up as Late Night Health continues. Don't go away.
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. It's true there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on all the beaches in our world. Each of those stars has a unique light just like your beautiful soul. Of all the challenges you've faced, you can only be made better for them. Just as all the great masterworks of art have weathered the wrath of time, only to become more revered in their inherent beauty, you too are counted among these masterpieces. It's true, the further that you climb, the further you have to fall. But aren't those incredibly beautiful views worth the risk? Never underestimate what you're capable of. Keep climbing and never look back.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit guidetothesoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on latenighthealth.com.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate a lower tax bill. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts. But you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will fight for you using industry secrets that can stop any IRS actions, eliminate penalties and interest, and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, call the Tax Doctor now for a free IRS audit emergency review.
800-663-5107. 800-663-5107. 800-663-5107. That's 800-663-5107.